Listen to me. The reason some of you aren't seeing the results you want, the reason you're not getting to that next level is because you keep trying to fit in. You keep trying to blend. You keep trying to be accepted. But champion, legends, game changers, they don't fit in, they stand out. You've got to make up your mind right now, today, that you're going to separate yourself from the crowd. And separation is not easy. It's uncomfortable. It's lonely. It means you're going to get up earlier than everybody else. It means you're going to stay longer than everybody else. It means you're going to say a no when everybody else is saying a yes. Everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what beasts do. Separation is not about talent alone. It's about discipline. It's about consistency. It's about commitment when nobody's watching. If you want to be great, you have to decide to no longer operate at the level of average. When the crowd is going left, you go right. When they're sleeping, you're working. When they're complaining, you're creating. When they're scrolling, you're studying. You've got to train your mind to want it so bad that you don't care if you're misunderstood. You don't care if people call you crazy because you know your purpose. Separation will cost you friends. It will cost you weekend. It will cost you comfort. But it will also give you freedom. It will give you success. It will give you peace of mind. It will give you the life you dreamed about when nobody else believed in you. Stop trying to be accepted by people who don't even have the life you want. Stop letting them set your standard. Stop living for their approval. You weren't put on this planet to blend in. You were put here to dominate. And here's the truth. If you're willing to separate yourself now, if you're willing to pay the price now, you're going to live a life that most people only talk about. People will say you're lucky. No, you're not lucky. You're not lucky. You're separated. So today, make the decision. Not tomorrow, not next week. Separate yourself in your work ethic. Separate yourself in your attitude. Separate yourself in your hunger. And when you do, the results will separate you from everyone who chose to stay comfortable. Because at the end of the day, it's simple. If you want to be uncommon, you can't do what common people do. Separate yourself and watch the world take notice. You got to hear me when I say this. Average behavior will never, ever produce exceptional results. And the problem is, too many of you want world-class results, but you're putting in regular class effort. You want to live in the penthouse, but you're working like you're okay staying in the basement. You want championship rings, but you're practicing like it's just a pickup game. That doesn't work. That equation will never add up. Average behavior is easy. Anybody can do average. Anybody can show up when they feel like it. Anybody can work hard for 2 days and then take 3 days off. Anybody can give effort when they're in the mood. But exceptional? Exceptional demands something entirely different. It demands you to perform when you don't feel like it. It demands you to execute when nobody's watching. It demands you to get up when the alarm clock goes off at 4:30 in the morning, even when your body says, stay in bed. You can't get exceptional results doing what everybody else is doing, because everybody else is average. The crowd is average. The masses are average. So if you move like them, think like them, and act like them, you will live like them. And here's the truth. Most people aren't living the life they want. They're surviving, not thriving. They're settling, not achieving. So why would you copy them? Why would you imitate mediocrity and then expect to live in excellence? I've seen it over and over again. People say they want it, but when it's time to pay the price, they disappear. They fold, they compromise, they cut corners. And here's the last thing I'll say on this. Exceptional is not a one-time decision. It's a lifestyle. You got to wake up every single day and choose it all over again. You got to look at your habits, your work ethic, your attitude, and ask yourself, is this average or is this exceptional? If it's average, you fix it immediately. If it's exceptional, you push it further. You keep sharpening your edge. You keep finding ways to improve, because the moment you get comfortable, you're on your way back to average. So stop expecting exceptional results from average behavior. The world doesn't work like that. The grind you avoid today will be the regret you feel tomorrow. But the extra mile you walk today will be the reward you enjoy for the rest of your life. If you're serious about separating yourself from the competition, from the pack, from the noise, you've got to get comfortable with the idea of early mornings, late nights, and sacrifice. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 days a week. I'm talking about building your entire life around a level of discipline and commitment that most people would never even attempt. This is not about convenience. This is about commitment. Everybody says they want to win until it's time to do what winning requires. Winning requires you to get up before the world gets up. It requires you to start moving while other people are still asleep. Dreaming about the life you're actually building. You've got to wake up with purpose in your eyes and urgency in your spirit. Early mornings are not punishment. They are the gateway to opportunity. The earlier you start, the more ground you cover before the competition even knows the day has begun. When you wake up before the sun, you send a message to yourself and to the universe that you are serious. You are telling your goals, I'm here and I'm not waiting for permission to start. That's the mindset of a champion. Champions don't hit snooze. Champions don't wait for perfect conditions. Champions attack the day before the day attacks them. But it's not just about early mornings. You've also got to be willing to stretch your days. While others clock out mentally at 5 p.m., you've got to find another gig. You've got to be willing to keep going when the lights start going out and everybody else's mind. Those late nights, that's where you're refining your craft. That's where you're building something special. It's where you're reviewing your game film, reading the books, practicing the skills, making the calls, writing the plans. Those hours are quiet because most people are gone, which means it's your chance to work without distraction. And in between those early mornings and late nights lies sacrifice. If you're not willing to give something up, you're not willing to grow. The problem is, most people want everything. They want the parties, they want the weekends, they want all the comfort and all the fun, and they also want success. Something has to give. You might have to give up your Friday nights. You might have to miss a few vacations. Dope. You might have to say a no to people you love so you can say yes to the vision you've been given. Sacrifice is not losing. Sacrifice is an investment. You are giving up something temporary for something permanent. You are trading what you want right now for what you want most. And yes, it hurts in the moment. Yes, it's uncomfortable to watch other people enjoy themselves while you're grinding. Yes, you'll have moments when you wonder if it's worth it. But when you start seeing the results, when you start living in the space you used to dream about, you'll know every bit of sacrifice was worth it. Here's the truth. Separation is never comfortable. You're going to be tired. You're going to feel lonely sometime. You're going to feel like you're missing out. You're going to have nights when you're staring at your computer or your notebook or your project, wondering if anybody even notices the effort you're putting in. But that's when you remind yourself, this isn't about being noticed right now. It's about building something undeniable so that one day they can't ignore you. You've got to be okay with delayed gratification. The early mornings you push through today, the late nights you endured this week, the sacrifices you make this month. You may not see the reward tomorrow. You may not even see it next year. But you've got to trust that the process is working even when you can't see the progress. You've got to believe that every extra hour you put in is a seed being planted. And one day those seeds will turn into a harvest so big that the people who doubted you would have no choice but to respect you. The reality is, most people are not willing to separate themselves because they can't get past the discomfort. They can't handle waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. every day. They can't handle saying no to things they enjoy. They can't handle being disciplined when nobody's watching. But that's why they stay average, because average people choose comfort over growth every single time. When you decide you're going to be different, you stop living on other people's schedule. You stop basing your work ethic on the clock. You work until it's done, until it's excellent, until it's worthy of your name being attached to it. You don't care if it's 6 a.m. or midnight. If the work needs to be done, you do it. That's separation. That's what makes you dangerous to the competition. I remember hearing once that great people don't have more hours in the day. They just use theirs differently. And it's true. You've got the same 24 hours as everybody else. The difference is most people are using 8 of those hours sleeping, another 4 wasting time, and the rest just getting by. But when you claim those early hours, when you use those late night hours, when you cut out the wasted hours, suddenly you're operating with twice the productivity of everyone around you. It's not magic. It's math. And here's something else you need to understand. Separation isn't a season. It's a lifestyle. You don't just get up early for a month and then expect the world to hand you greatness. You don't grind late for one project and then retire into comfort. You keep doing it. You keep showing up. You keep pushing. Because the moment you stop, you start sliding back toward average. There's a reason why most people never experience the kind of life they dream about. It's because they're not willing to pay the price consistently. They'll pay it for a little while, but then they stop. They let comfort creep back in. They get tired of saying a no to certain things. But if you want to live a life very few people ever get to live, you've got to be willing to keep paying the price for as long as it takes. So yes, separation requires early morning, late nights, and sacrifice. It requires trading your comfort for your calling. It requires building when nobody's watching and grinding when nobody's clapping. But if you stay with it, if you keep stacking those days, you're going to wake up one morning, maybe years from now, and realize that while everybody else was sleeping, you were building a life they can only dream about. And that feeling, that's worth every single early morning, every single late night, and every single sacrifice you ever made. You got to hear me on this. Discipline will beat talent every single time when talent refuses to separate itself. I've seen it my whole life. I've seen people with God-given ability, people who were born with more skill in their little finger than others could gain in a lifetime, and they wasted it. They didn't have the discipline to protect it, to develop it, to grow it. Talent is a gift, but discipline is what turns that gift into greatness. Without discipline, talent is just potential waiting to die. You can't lean on your talent forever. You can't think, I'm naturally good at this, so I don't have to work as hard. That's the fastest way to get passed up. Because while you're relying on your gift, there's someone out there, maybe with half your ability, who's outworking you every single day. They're up earlier. They're staying later. They're studying more. They're practicing more. They're not relying on our talent. They're relying on their grind. And the grind is undefeated. I watched it happen in sports, in business, in music, in every area of life. The challenges start strong, but somewhere along the way, they get comfortable. They stop pushing. They stop improving. They think the gap between them and everybody else is permanent. But the hungry, disciplined ones, they keep chipping away at that gap. They keep showing up day after day, and eventually they pass the ones who thought they were untouchable. Discipline is about consistency. Talent can win you a game, but discipline will win you a career. Talent can get you applause, but discipline will get you legacy. You've got to build habits that work for you when you don't feel like working. Because feelings are dangerous. They change, they fade, they lie to you. Discipline doesn't care about feelings. Discipline is about commitment. It's about doing what you said you would do long after the mood you said it in has left you. And I know this is hard to hear, but talent makes some people lazy. It makes them think they're special, so they cut corners. They give 70% effort and still get decent results. So they convince themselves that's enough. But here's the truth. If you can get decent results with 70%, imagine what you could get with 120%. Imagine what you could achieve if you combine your gift with an unstoppable work ethic. That's the difference between good and legendary. The disciplined person doesn't just practice when they feel inspired. They practice on the days they're tired, on the days they're bored, on the days when it's raining, on the days when nobody is cheering them on. They don't need a crowd. They need a standard. And their standard doesn't change. It doesn't drop just because. In fact, the discipline to keep working when nobody's watching is exactly what puts them ahead. You've got to be honest with yourself. Are you showing up every day because you're disciplined, or only when it's easy? Are you putting in work when it's boring, when it's repetitive, when it's not fun? Because that's when champions are made. Everybody can work hard when it's new and exciting, but only the disciplined keep grinding when it's old and familiar. There's a reason why some of the most successful people in the world weren't the most talented starting out. They didn't have the natural edge, but they had the hunger. They had the discipline to work on their weaknesses until they became strengths. They studied longer. They practiced harder. They refused to take shortcuts. And in the end, they built something unshakable. When you're disciplined, you're not worried about competing with others. You're competing with yourself. You're trying to outdo yesterday's effort. You're trying to raise your own bar every single day. You're not satisfied with being better than someone else. You're obsessed with being the best version of you. That's the mindset that crushes talent without discipline. I've met people who say, I don't need to work as hard because I'm already ahead. That's the exact moment they start falling behind. You don't stop sharpening your blade just because you're already winning fights. You keep sharpening because you know the competition never stops coming. The discipline never underestimate the grind. The truth is, talent fades without maintenance. Skills atrophy without practice. If you're not disciplined, your gift becomes dull over time. But if you've got discipline, you'll keep getting sharper, stronger, and faster. You'll be ready when opportunities come because you stay ready. And staying ready is the ultimate advantage. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not flash. It's not Instagram worthy most of the time. It's you alone putting in reps that nobody sees. It's you saying no to things that would distract you. It's you choosing the long-term reward over the short-term pleasure. And here's the crazy part. People will see your results and call you a lucky. They'll think it happened overnight. They'll have no idea that your discipline was at work every single day while they were taking breaks. If you're relying only on talent, you're living on borrowed time. Eventually, someone more disciplined will pass you. They may not beat you in one day or one week or 1 month, but over time, the gap will close. And when it does, they'll take everything you thought was yours. That's why you can't just depend on what you were born with. You got to develop what you've been given. Discipline is also what carries you through the setbacks. Talent can crumble when things go wrong because talented people aren't used to losing. But the discipline, they know how to keep going through losses, through criticism, through failure. They don't fold when it gets tough. They adjust. They keep working until the tide turns in their favor. So when you see someone with less talent winning, don't just say, hey, they got lucky. Look closer. Look at their habits, their routine, their sacrifices. Look at the way they keep showing up, rain or shine, day after day. That's not luck. That's discipline. And that's the difference maker that will beat talent every single time when talent refuses to separate. You got to understand this. Your environment is either pushing you forward or pulling you back. It's either sharpening you or dulling you. It's either feeding your hunger or killing your fire. And most people fail, not because they aren't capable, but because they stay in environments that are toxic to their growth. They keep surrounding themselves with people, habits, and atmospheres that make average look normal. Listen to me. Your standard will rise or fall to match the people you spend the most time with. If your circle treats mediocrity as acceptable, sooner or later, you'll start lowering your expectations to fit in. You'll start telling yourself things like, yeah, this is good enough, or at least I'm doing better than them. But when you're surrounded by people who are hungry, disciplined, and chasing greatness, you start feeling uncomfortable when you're not operating at your best. That's the power of environment. It sets the thermostat for your life. You gotta be brutally honest about your surroundings. Who's speaking into your life? What conversations are you having daily? What's the energy like where you spend most of your time? Because you can have the biggest dreams in the world, but if you're living in an environment that feeds doubt, laziness, and excuses, those dreams will starve to death. I'm telling you right now, you can't afford to hang around people who normalize failure. I'm not talking about failing while trying, because that's part of the process. I'm talking about the people who fail and then quit, people who don't even try, people who sit around making excuses for why nothing in their life is changing. If you stay in that environment long enough, you'll start to adopt their mindset without even realizing it. You need to be around people who challenge you, people who make you uncomfortable in the best way possible and possible. People who, when you bring them your best work, will look you in the eye and say, you can do better. People who are so focused on their own goals that you can't help but level up just to keep up. That's how your standard grows. The truth is, sometimes separation doesn't just mean working harder. It means walking away. It means distancing yourself from environments that no longer align with the person you're trying to become. And yeah, that can be hard. It can mean leaving behind people you've known for years. It can mean saying no to invitations, changing routines, and being alone for a season. But if that's what it takes to get into an environment that elevates you, it's worth every ounce of discomfort. Your environment isn't just about people. It's also about what you consume. The music you listen to, the shows you watch, the books you read, the content you scroll through, all of it is shaping your mind. If your inputs are negative, small-minded, and fear-driven, don't be surprised when your outputs match. But if you fill your environment with inspiration, education, and examples of excellence, your mind will start to expect more from you. I've seen people step into a new environment and change their life in months. Why? Because they started seeing what was possible. When you see people actually living at the level you've been dreaming about, it becomes real. It's no longer just an idea in your head. It's proof. And once you have proof, it's hard to go back to accepting land. That's why the wrong environment is so dangerous. It convinces you that your limits are fixed, that your situation is permanent, that you should be grateful just to be getting by. It convinces you that playing small is safe. But the truth is, playing small is the riskiest thing you can do because you're gambling with your potential. If you want to raise your standard, you got to put yourself in rooms where you're not the smartest, not the strongest, not the most accomplished. You got to be willing to feel out of place at first. You got to be okay with being the one who's learning instead of teaching. That's how you grow, by being stretched. If you're always the biggest fish in your pond, you'll never learn how to swim in the ocean. You got to set boundaries for your environment. That might mean cutting off certain conversations, limiting time with certain people, or removing yourself from situations that drain you. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone. It's about protecting the standard you're trying to live by. Because if you let your environment slip, your standard will follow. Some of you are trying to keep your old environment while chasing a new life. You can't do both. You can't run at full speed towards your future while staying chained to your past. You've got to decide which one matters more, the comfort of the familiar or the challenge of the extraordinary. And let me tell you, a powerful environment will hold you accountable even when you don't want it to. It will push you on the days you want to quit. It will remind you of your goals when you get distracted. It will make you raise your effort, your focus, and your expectations because everyone around you is doing the same. It's like working out with someone stronger than you. At first, you feel the gap between where you are and where they are. But over time, just by being in their presence and keeping pace with their effort, you start getting stronger without even realizing it. That's the silent power of environment. It lifts you without asking for permission. But you got to choose it deliberately. A good environment doesn't just happen. You create it. You choose who you spend time with, where you spend your time, what you give your attention to. Every choice you make is either raising your standard or lowering it. And if you're not paying attention, you might be lowering it without even realizing it. I've been in rooms where the expectation was so high, where excellence was so normal that it forced me to rethink what I believed I was capable of. That's where you want to be, in environments where success is the standard, not the exception. Environments where people are too busy building their future to gossip about someone else's past. Environments where every day feels like an opportunity to climb higher. Because at the end of the day, your environment is shaping you whether you know it or not. And if you want to change your life, sometimes the first step isn't working harder. It's putting yourself somewhere that makes hard work natural. Somewhere that makes excellence expected. Somewhere that forces you to grow because staying the same is no longer an option. When you decide to separate yourself, you have to understand that comfort is the greatest enemy of greatness. Most people stay in the same place in life because they get addicted to the feeling of being safe, of being surrounded by what's familiar. They don't want to feel awkward. They don't want to be the odd one out. But that's exactly why they never grow. If you want to become the best version of yourself, you have to be willing to walk into rooms where nobody knows your name, where you don't yet belong, where your skills are still catching up to the standard. It's in those moments where you feel the discomfort, the uncertainty that you're forced to stretch, to learn, and to adapt. Every time you avoid those moments, you're trading away your future for a few seconds of comfort in the present. You've got to remind yourself, everything you've ever wanted in life exists outside your comfort zone. That dream career, that level of fitness, that financial freedom, that peace of mind, It's all out there, just beyond the invisible wall that comfort has built around you. The wall feels safe, but it's a prison. And here's the truth. The longer you stay inside it, the harder it becomes to leave. The habits that keep you comfortable become chains. The excuses you tell yourself start sounding like facts. Before you know it, you've convinced yourself that where you are was where you belong. Even though deep down, you know it's not. Stepping out of your comfort zone isn't just about doing something different. It's about doing something that forces you to grow. It's about showing up to the gym when you've never been athletic. It's about starting that business when you've never been an entrepreneur. It's about speaking up when you've always stayed quiet. And every time you do something that scares you, you're not just building a skill, you're building yourself. You're teaching yourself that fear isn't a stop sign, it's a signal that you're on the right path. Most people want to wait until they feel ready before they step out. But you'll never feel ready. Readiness is a myth. You don't feel ready before the breakthrough. You feel ready because you've already done the work. The courage comes first. The confidence comes after. You have to be willing to step into the unknown, trusting that you'll figure it out as you go. You don't need to have it all planned. You don't need to know the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step, and then another, and then another. Here's the thing. When you start moving beyond your comfort zone, you're going to lose some people. Some friends will fall off not because they hate you, but because they don't want to leave their own comfort zones. They'll say you've changed, and you have. They'll say you're different, you are. That's the whole point. Yeah. If you're the same person year after year, that's not loyalty to yourself. That's stagnation. You have to be okay with letting go of the old to make room for the new. Discomfort is the training ground for champions. Every great athlete, every successful entrepreneur, every leader you admire, they all learned to live in discomfort. They learned to show up when it was hard, to keep going when it was awkward, to embrace the challenge instead of running from it. The more you expose yourself to those moments, the less intimidating they become. What once scared you becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes routine. And that's when you realize the only limit you ever had was the one you placed on yourself. You can't just dip your toe into discomfort. You have to fully step into it. You have to stop seeking approval from everyone around you, because the people who live in comfort will always criticize those who don't. They'll say you're taking unnecessary risks. They'll tell you to be realistic. But realism is just another word for fear dressed up as wisdom. Every major leap in history, from inventions to revolutions, was made by someone who refused to stay comfortable. It's going to hurt sometimes. Growth is not painless. Your body will ache after workouts. Your mind will get tired from learning. Your heart will feel heavy when you lose people who can't come with you. But that's the price of becoming someone new. Comfort demands that you stay the same. Growth demands that you change. And when you choose growth over comfort, you're telling yourself that your dreams are worth more than your excuses. Remember this, the comfort zone might give you short-term ease, but it steals long-term satisfaction. A life lived inside, it will always feel like something is missing, because deep down, you'll know you could be more. Every day you step outside it, you're proving to yourself that you're capable more than you thought. You're collecting experiences, skills, and memories that no one can take away from you. And the best part, the more you expand your comfort zone, the bigger your world becomes. One day you'll look back and realize that the moments you were most scared, the times you felt the most uncertain, were the moments that defined you. Not the days you played it safe, but the days you stepped out, took the risk, and kept going despite the discomfort. That's where the growth happens. That's where the magic is. That's how you separate yourself from the rest, by living where others are afraid to go. When you choose to separate yourself, you have to understand, just about being physically away from certain people or situations, it's about creating a mental, emotional, and spiritual distance from anything that does not push you toward the life you want to live. You can be in the same room as 100 other people, but in your mind, in your vision, in your work ethic, you're somewhere completely different. Separating yourself is not arrogance, it's focus. It's deciding that your time, energy, and resources are too valuable to waste on things that will not take you to your purpose. There are people who will misunderstand that, and that's fine, because they're not living your life. They're not carrying your dreams. And they're not responsible for your legacy. You are. Every day you wake up, you're making a choice to be like everybody else or to be like the person you said you wanted to become. Separating yourself means you stop operating on other people's schedules, other people's timeline, and other people's expectations. It means you learn to be okay with being the odd one out in the group, the person who leaves early because you got work to do, the one who's not at every party because you're building something greater. You stop needing validation from those who are not even pursuing the same goals. Yeah. You stop seeking permission to chase your dream. You stop apologizing for putting yourself first when it comes to your future. It's not selfish, it's survival for your destiny. There will be seasons in life where the separation feels lonely. You'll see others laughing, relaxing, and having what seems like an easier life. And you might start to question yourself. But that's where your vision has to be stronger than your feelings. The people who can't understand your grind are often the same ones who later ask how you did it. They're not your enemies. They just don't see what you see yet. You're playing a long-term game. You're investing time, discipline, and sacrifice today for a harvest they can't imagine. That means you might have to miss out on temporary pleasures to gain permanent success. Every hour you give to your craft, every day you choose focus over fun, you're building something brick by brick that will stand long after the trends fade. Separating yourself also means controlling your environment. You have to be intentional about what you allow in your space, what you watch, what you listen to, the conversations you engage in, the energy you entertain. You can't say you want to reach the top, but spend every evening around people who have no interest in climbing. The atmosphere you stay in will either fuel you or drain you. If you stay around mediocrity long enough, you'll start to accept it as normal. That's why sometimes you have to distance yourself from good people who are just not right for your path. Not because they're bad, but because they're not going where you're going. And if you keep walking with them, you'll end up at their destination instead of yours. Another part of separating yourself is having the courage to think differently. You can't separate yourself if your mindset is still attached to the crowd's way of thinking. You have to be willing to dream bigger than what your surroundings tell you is possible. Whoa! You have to believe you can do things you've never seen anyone in your family do. You have to be okay with people telling you you're crazy or unrealistic because greatness has always looked crazy to those who settle. This is where self-belief becomes non-negotiable. No one is going to come and hand you the confidence you need. You have to build it through action, through wins, through overcoming your own doubts. Every time you prove to yourself that you can do something you once thought was hard, you're reinforcing the gap between where you are and where you used to be. You'll also notice that when you separate yourself, opportunities start to look different. The same doors others are waiting for someone to open for them. You're finding ways to build your own. The same limits others accept, you start questioning and pushing through. This shift happens because when you're separated, you're no longer comparing yourself to the crowd. You're comparing yourself to your own potential. And that's a much higher standard. It forces you to grow, to stretch, to chase improvement relentlessly. You're not content with being a good enough anymore. You want to be exceptional. You want to see how far you can actually go if you stop holding yourself back. One of the hardest parts of separating yourself is dealing with the resistance from others. Some people will take it personally, thinking your growth is a rejection of them. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right, because change is the point. But you can't let their discomfort with your evolution stop you. You have to remember that the same people who question you now might one day be inspired by you. And even if they never are, you didn't separate yourself for their approval. You did it for your mission. You have to be willing to be misunderstood in the short term to be respected in the long term. Separation is also about discipline. Anyone can dream big, but few are willing to do what it takes consistently. It's not glamorous. It's not always exciting. Sometimes it's just showing up and doing the work, even when nobody's watching. It's saying no to things you want in the moment for things you want more in the future. It's making a tough call, staying consistent, and refusing to lower your standards because it's easier. That's the grind no one talks about, but it's what truly sets you apart. Talent will get you noticed, but discipline will keep you there. The more you separate yourself, the more you'll realize that the competition is not with other people. It's with your own comfort zone. Every time you choose to stretch yourself, to step into something uncomfortable, you widen the gap between the average and the extraordinary. And over time, and that gap becomes so wide that people start to wonder how you got so far ahead. The truth is, you didn't sprint past them. You just took small, consistent steps in a different direction while they stayed still. That's the power of separation. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than you were yesterday. It's about saying, I refuse to settle. About saying, I refuse to settle. I refuse to blend in when I was born to stand out. I refuse to let my dreams die in the comfort of the crowd. Separation is the price you pay for elevation. And if you're willing to pay it, you'll find yourself in places others only dream about. The people who once thought you were crazy will wish they had the courage to do what you did. And by then you'll know the truth. Separation wasn't the hard part. It was the key that unlocked everything. When you decide to separate yourself from the average, you're making a decision to live at a level where most people are not willing to go. You're telling yourself, I refuse to settle for what's comfortable. I refuse to be just another name in the crowd. I refuse to be the person who looks back in 20 years with regret because I never gave my all. Separation is not easy because it means leaving behind things. And sometimes people that have been familiar for years. It means breaking routines, letting go of habits that feel safe, and stepping into environments where you might not know anyone, where you might feel awkward, where you might even fail in the beginning. But the truth is, growth never happens in comfort. Every time you separate yourself from the crowd, you are making a choice to step into a higher version of yourself. Look at anyone who has achieved greatness. Athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, visionaries. None of them became exceptional by blending in. They didn't follow the patterns everyone else was following. They didn't spend their nights binge watching TV while others were sleeping. They didn't surround themselves with people who had no drive, no goals, no hunger. They separated themselves by their discipline, their focus, their work ethic, and their ability to delay gratification. And here's the truth. This isn't just about talent. You don't need to be born with some special gift to separate yourself. You need to be willing to go where others won't. You need to be willing to wake up earlier, study longer, practice harder, and sacrifice pleasures that give you quick satisfaction for results that will change your life forever. Separating yourself doesn't mean thinking you're better than others. It means deciding to become the best version of you. There's a big difference. This is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. It's about saying, I know my purpose, I know my path, and I can't afford to waste my time, my energy, and my opportunities on things that don't take me forward. Sometimes that means saying no to invitations, no to distractions, and no to people who drain your energy. And let's be real, people won't always understand. Some will say you've changed. Some will think you're acting different. But the truth is, you have changed. You're supposed to change. You can't grow and stay the same. You can't transform and still live like you used to. You can't get to the next level if you're still hanging out on your old one. There's going to be a part of this journey where it feels lonely. You'll look around and see that the people who used to be with you aren't there anymore. Not because they're bad people, but because your paths are no longer the same. You're going left, you're going right. And that's okay. You have to learn to walk alone sometimes because walking alone with purpose is better than walking with a crowd that's going nowhere. This is the season where you protect your energy, guard your vision, and feed your mind with things that strengthen you. Read books, listen to powerful voices. Surround yourself with people who inspire you. Get around people who are already living the life you want. Not so you can be jealous, but so you can be motivated. When you separate yourself, you also have to separate your habits. So you can't keep eating the same way, thinking the same way, working the same way, and expect different results. Separation is about building a new standard for yourself. It's about looking at your life and saying, oh, this is not the level I'm staying at. I'm going higher. You can't depend on motivation alone because motivation fades. What you need is discipline. Discipline is waking up when you don't feel like it. Discipline is working on your craft when nobody is watching. Discipline is staying focused when distractions are calling your name. Discipline is what makes the difference between those who dream and those who achieve. There will be days when you question if it's worth it. You'll look at others who seem to be enjoying life while you're grinding, sacrificing, and pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. But remember, those same people might be living for the moment while you're building for the future. You're planting seeds now that will give you a harvest later. Every late night, every early morning, every repetition, every decision to stay focused is a brick in the foundation of your future. The reward doesn't come overnight, but it does come. And when it comes, you'll look back and thank yourself for every moment you chose to separate. Separating yourself also requires mental toughness. You can't let every setback throw you off. You can't let every failure convince you to quit. Failure is not a signal to stop. It's a signal to adjust. Every time you fall, you get up with more experience, more wisdom, and more hunger. The road to success is not straight. It's full of curves, bumps, and obstacles. But if you stay the course, you will arrive at your destination. Too many people give up because they're afraid of being different, afraid of standing out, afraid of being judged. But here's the reality. People are going to judge you no matter what you do. So you might as well do what sets your soul on fire. You don't separate yourself by accident. You do it intentionally. You make daily choices that move you closer to your goals. You decide how you spend your time, what you feed your mind, who you allow into your space, and how much effort you give, and you do it over and over again, even when you don't feel like it, because you know the cost of blending in is far greater than the cost of standing out. If you can embrace this mindset, you'll realize that separating yourself is not about leaving people behind. It's about moving forward so you can one day inspire them to do the same. You can't lift others if you haven't climbed first. You can't teach commitment if you haven't lived it. And you can't talk about success if you've never tasted it. Your journey of separation is not just for you. It's for everyone who will one day look at you and say, if they can do it, so can I. When you decide to separate yourself, you're making a conscious choice to step away from mediocrity and the comfort of blending in with the crowd. So many people in this world live their lives based on what everyone else is doing. They dress the same, think the same, dream the same small dreams, and accept the same limitations. But you were not created to be a carbon copy of the person standing next to you. You were created with something unique, something powerful, something that sets you apart. The problem is, most people never tap into that uniqueness because they're afraid of what it means to truly separate themselves. It's safer to stay in the pack, safer to go with the flow, safer to conform. But safety doesn't change lives, and it certainly doesn't create greatness. Separating yourself means embracing the discomfort that comes with doing something different. It means you're willing to be misunderstood, criticized, and even laughed at because your vision is bigger than their understanding. People who stay average will always question those who aim higher because your effort reminds them of their own lack of commitment. When you start to pull away from the crowd, you're going to hear voices telling you to slow down, to be realistic, to not take things so seriously. But separating yourself means you refuse to listen to those voices. You choose to listen to the small, powerful whisper inside you that says, you were made for more. It's not just about working harder than everyone else. It's about working differently. If the people around you are sleeping in, you're up before the sun. If they're wasting time complaining, you're using that time to strategize your next move. If they're satisfied with doing just enough to get by, you're willing to give more than anyone thinks is necessary. That's how you create a gap so wide between you and the average person that you can't be compared. And it's not because you think you're better, it's because you're committed to being the best version of yourself. Separating yourself requires a shift in mindset. You stop thinking about fitting in, start thinking about standing out. You stop caring about approval and start caring about results. This isn't about arrogance, it's about purpose. When you live with purpose, you can't afford to get tangled in the drama, gossip, and distractions that pull most people off course. You're too focused on your mission to let small things derail you. Your life becomes intentional. Every choice you make, every action you take is in alignment with the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. You'll also have to separate yourself from certain environments. Sometimes it's not the big, dramatic changes that make the difference. It's the small daily choice to distance yourself from things that drain your energy and focus. It might mean stepping away from certain friends who don't share your vision. It might mean changing your routines, your habits, and your priorities. You can't rise to a new level while clinging to old patterns. If you're trying to fly, you can't stay chained to the ground. The higher you want to go, the more weight you have to let go of. And understand this, separation is lonely at first. When you decide to raise your standards, you will outgrow people, places, and mindsets. There will be moments when it feels like you're walking alone, moments when you question whether it's worth it. That's where faith comes in. You have to trust that the temporary loneliness is building you for something greater. Every step you take away from mediocrity is a step toward the destiny that was meant for you. You can't discover that destiny if you're buried under the noise of the crowd. But here's the beautiful thing. Once you've separated yourself, once you've done the work, once you've endured the sacrifices, you don't just inspire yourself, you inspire others. Your courage to stand out gives other people permission to do the same. They start to see that it's possible to live differently, to aim higher, to create something extraordinary. Your life becomes a living example of what happens when someone refuses to settle. So, separating yourself isn't about leaving people behind in arrogance. It's about showing them a higher way to live. It's about refusing to be trapped by limitations and choosing instead to live fully, boldly, and unapologetically. It's about setting a standard so high for yourself that you elevate everyone who comes in contact with you. And when you do that, you stop being just another face in the crowd. You become the reason the crowd looks up. When you truly understand the concept of separating yourself, you begin to realize that it's not just about physical distance from certain people or environments. It's about a shift in your mentality, a change in your daily patterns, and a deep commitment to living by a different standard than the one the world tries to impose on you. Too many people try to fit into spaces that no longer align with their vision, hoping somehow that the people around them will change, or that the environment will magically transform into one that supports their goals. But that's not how transformation works. Separation is a deliberate act. It's intentional. It's you deciding that you're not going to allow the habits, negativity, or mediocrity of your surroundings to pull you down when you've got somewhere higher to go. It's understanding that where you're headed requires a version of you that cannot be influenced or diluted by the distractions that come from staying in the wrong place. It starts with recognizing the environment that keep you stagnant. Sometimes it's not even about being around the baddie people. Sometimes it's about being around people who are simply okay with where they are, who have no interest in pushing themselves beyond their comfort zone. The truth is, if you surround yourself with that mindset long enough, it becomes your own. You start making the same excuses. You start lowering your standards, thinking that average is good enough. But average isn't your calling. You were built for something bigger, something greater, something that demands you rise above what's familiar. And to get there, you have to create a space for yourself that's free from the noise, free from the doubt, free from the patterns that once kept you in the same place year after year. Separation is also about discipline. It's one thing to remove yourself physically from certain situations, but if your mind is still tied to them, you haven't truly separated. Then think about it. How many people say they've moved on from something, but they're still mentally and emotionally living in it? That's not separation. That's relocation without transformation. True separation means your mindset shifts. You don't just leave the old environment. You leave the old habits, the old conversations, the old way of thinking that used to define you. You start choosing activities that align with your purpose. You start waking up earlier, not because someone told you to, but because you decided that your time is too valuable to waste. You start guarding your energy like it's the most precious thing you own, because it is. Now here's the part most people won't tell you. Separation is lonely. When you decide to walk a different path, you have to accept that not everyone is going to come with you. People will misunderstand you. Some will criticize you, and others will flat out walk away. But you have to be okay with that. You can't keep dragging people into a future they have no desire to be part of. You can't keep lowering your pace to accommodate someone else's lack of urgency. If you want to reach your destination, you have to keep moving forward, even if it means you walk alone for a while. And that's where your strength is built, in the quiet seasons when it's just you, your vision, and your discipline. The reality is, separation is a filter. It reveals who truly supports you and who is just comfortable with your old self. The ones who stay are the ones who understand your vision and respect your boundaries. The ones who leave are often the very reason you needed to separate in the first place. But either way, you come out stronger, clearer, and more focused. You stop wasting energy on people who drain, and you start pouring that energy into the actions that will actually move you closer to your goals. Another powerful aspect of separation is that it forces you to take ownership. You can't blame your environment anymore because you've removed yourself from it. You can't point to someone else's negativity as the reason you're not growing because you've eliminated those voices from your life. Now, it's all on you, your choices, your habits, your commitment. That level of accountability can be intimidating, but it's also freeing. You realize that the only person who can hold you back now is you. And that's when you start operating on a higher level, because you know there's no one left to blame if you don't get it done. Separation also gives you perspective. When you're too close to something, it's hard to see it for what it truly is. But when you step back, you can finally recognize the pattern, the cycles, the unhealthy attachments that were holding you back. You start to see how much time you were wasting, how many opportunities you were overlooking, and how much potential you were leaving on the table. That awareness is powerful because it allows you to make better decisions moving forward. And here's the thing, separation isn't permanent isolation. You're not cutting yourself off from the world. You're positioning yourself in a place where you can grow without constant interference. You're building yourself up so that when you do step back into the world, you're stronger, wiser, and better equipped to handle whatever comes your way. You're not separating to hide, you're separating to prepare. Preparation in silence often leads to the loudest victories. So, when you think about separating yourself, don't just think about who or what you're walking away from. Think about what you're walking toward. Think about the life you want, the person you're becoming, and the legacy you want to leave. Every step you take away from the wrong environment is a step closer to the life you are meant to live. And if you stay committed to that journey, you'll eventually find yourself in a place where you don't just survive, you thrive. There's a point you're going to reach in life where you can't wait for the crowd to cheer for you. You can't sit around hoping for a pat on the back for someone to say, "Oh, good job." You've got to be your own cheerleader. You got to be the one who looks in the mirror and says, "We're not stopping. We're not quitting. We're not slowing down." Because let's be real, the world doesn't owe you applause. The world isn't sitting there waiting to hand you flowers for trying. You're going to have to push yourself, even when nobody's looking, even when nobody cares, even when nobody is talking about you. You've got to be so internally driven that you can't be stopped by external silence. Most people quit not because they're incapable, but because they need an audience to keep going. The second the crowd disappears, they start to slow down. The second their posts don't get likes, they start questioning if they're even worth it. But the truth is, the real work, the life-changing work, happens in the dark when nobody sees you, nobody claps for you, nobody claps for you, nobody even knows you're grinding. That's when the warriors are made. You've got to separate yourself from the need for constant validation. See, validation is addictive. It feels good when people hype you up, when they acknowledge your effort, when they tell you you're amazing. But what happens when they don't? What happens when the people you thought would be in your corner suddenly disappear? If you depend on them for fuel, your fire will die out the moment they stop showing up. But if you built a fire from within, if your motivation is rooted in your purpose, in your commitment, in your vision, then it doesn't matter if the stands are empty. You'll still show up like it's a championship game. The people at the top, the ones you admire, the ones you wish to be like, they didn't get there because they had the loudest cheerleaders. They got there because they had the loudest voice inside their own head. They woke up telling themselves, "I can do this. I will do this. I will do this. I'm not leaving until it's done." That's self-talk. That's self-motivation. That's what's going to keep you moving when the weather gets ugly, when the road gets hard, when the finish line feels like it's a million miles away. And let's be clear, being your own cheerleader doesn't mean you walk around arrogant. It doesn't mean you pretend you don't need anyone. It means that your belief in yourself is so strong, so unshakable, that even if every voice outside of you goes silent, your inner voice is still screaming, let's go. It means that when you hit a wall, instead of crying for someone to come knock it down, for you start figuring out how to climb it, break it, or go around it. We live in a world right now where everyone's chasing approval. Social media has made people forget that you can be great without being liked, that you can win without being seen. Some of you are waiting to post the results before you even put in the work. You want people to believe in you before you believe in you, before you believe in yourself. That's backwards. Believe first. Work first. Then if people want to clap, let them clap. If they don't, keep running your race. I need you to understand something deep. Your biggest enemy might not be your competition, your boss, your haters. Your biggest enemy might be the version of you that can't move without being praised. The version of you that slows down because you feel unnoticed. You got to kill that version. You got to replace it with the version of you that says, I don't care if the room is empty. I'm still giving 100%. You've got to learn to love the grind more than the glory. Because the grind is where you're shaped. The grind is where you're tested. The grind is where you're built. Think about it. A seed doesn't grow because a crowd is clapping over it. It grows underground, in the dark, under pressure. No eyes on it, no Instagram reel showing the process. Just dirt, struggle, and persistence. But one day it breaks through, and when it breaks through, everybody notices. But here's the truth. It didn't need their notice to grow, and neither do you. You have to learn to set your own pace. If you run at the speed of someone else's approval, you'll burn out or slow down depending on. But if you set your own speed, based on your own speed, based on your own hunger, you'll never stop moving. You won't need a crowd to dictate how fast you go or how hard you push. You'll push because you've already decided that's who you are. Someday you're gonna be tired. Some days you're gonna question why you're even doing this. Some days your own mind will try to convince you to take it easy. That's when you gotta talk back to yourself. So that's when you gotta be your own motivator. You got to tell yourself, oh, we didn't come this far to come this far. You've got to remind yourself of your vision, of your why, of the people counting on you, and of the promise you made to yourself. And here's the thing. When you master this, when you truly become your own cheerleader, the external applause becomes extra, not essential. You'll appreciate it, but you won't rely on it. You'll be grateful for it, but you won't be broken without it. You'll be so secure in your purpose that whether you're in the spotlight or in the shadows, you're still unstoppable. I'm telling you right now, stop waiting for people to show up for you. Show up for yourself. Stop waiting for someone to tell you you're good enough. Tell yourself every single morning, I am built for this. I am strong enough. I am disciplined enough. I am unstoppable. And then back those words with action, because motivation without action is just noise. And you don't need more noise. You need results. The world will always have distractions. It would always have opinions. It will always have people who either don't believe in you or are too busy believing themselves to notice you. Don't waste energy trying to convince them. Use that energy to keep moving forward. Because here's the truth. When you finally break through, when you finally succeed, those same people will either clap for you or claim they knew you'd make it. Either way, you'll know it wasn't their applause that got you there. It was you. So get comfortable cheering for yourself in the silence. Silence. Get comfortable pushing yourself in the dark. Get comfortable working while the world sleeps. Because one day when the lights turn on, when your work finally shows, you won't be surprised. You'll smile because you know the hours, the effort, the sacrifice you put in when nobody was watching. That's the difference between the ones who make it and the ones who don't.